Think Realty Nation, it's your host, Abhi Golhar. Welcome to the Think Realty podcast. You know, it's not every day when you have a guest that comes on and the guest has been such a leader, inspirational leader in an industry that you get to ask a couple of very pointed questions. In this case, there's a lot that's happening with what Washington wants to do and the changes Washington wants to make in tax-advantaged accounts. An example of this is self-directed IRAs. So we decided to get the best of the best. So we got Quincy Long, who's a CEO of Quest Trust. And I cannot wait to have this conversation because he knows, he knows everything, I think is the understatement. I don't even know what to compare it to, but like, let's just say he's a god in the self-directed IRA industry. He's a titan in the self-directed IRA industry. And I'm excited to see what his thoughts are on what's going on in Washington right now. I know it's a little bit of a long intro, but that's like really key. Because if you have a self-directed IRA, open your eyes and pay attention and call your state representative, because what they're doing is messed up. Or what they are proposing to do is messed up, and it's not cool. So Quincy's going to talk about that. And then, of course, we'll talk about why self-directed IRAs are super important and how you can use self-directed IRAs while investing in real estate. There are a couple things you need to know, prohibited transactions, et cetera, and any updated rules and regulations that Quincy knows that I clearly don't know yet, because I just do my best to look pretty in front of a TV, and he actually has brains, which is great because I get to ask all the dumb questions. And I hope that he'll just humor me. Before we get any further, this episode of the Think Realty Podcast is brought to you by Think Multifamily. Whether you're a passive investor looking for passive income or an aspiring syndicator and ready to learn how to go big fast, Think Multifamily is the industry's leading acquisition and education company. Check them out. Go to www.thinkmultifamily.com. I did the intro of Quincy. I think we should just go for it. Quincy, welcome to the show, man. Good to see you. How are you?
Thank you. Real happy to be here.
Awesome. I'm happy to be here too. I'm happy that you're here. So one of the things that I absolutely want to talk about is the legislation that Washington wants to pass with regards to tax-advantaged accounts like a self-directed IRA.
That's right.
I have an understanding of it, but I'm going to kind of yield the Zoom to you for a second, because I want to hear your thoughts on what's going on, and then what's good, what's bad, what's ugly, or if there is any good, whatever that looks like. Floor is yours, sir.
Okay, so the whole big thing that's going on right now is because of, some of you may have heard of Peter Thiel, who started PayPal in his IRA, his self-directed Roth IRA, and now has a $5 billion, that's a billion with a B, Roth IRA, and the government just can't stand that. So they're trying to figure out a way to knock those out. So they propose sections, some of which we can live with, and others which are just unbelievably broad. So for example, if you have over $10 million in all your accounts, all your retirement accounts. So that's IRAs, 401ks, 403bs, 457 plans, whatever you have. If that totals more than $10 million, then you're going to have to take that 50% of the excess down to $10 million the next year as a required minimum distribution. And you also, to the extent you have over $20 million, you have to take 100% of the money above $20 million, and then half of the amount from $10 million. So that's not going to affect a whole lot of people on this call. Hopefully there are some that have more than $10 million, but it's not going to affect a lot of people. If you get above the income limits, you also are going to not be able to do Roth conversions either in your 401k plan or even in your IRAs. So that'll be knocked out. So that's kind of, I kind of hit that really fast, but that's kind of what applies to the rich people. And so what is the effect for the rest of us? Um, so one thing they wanted to do is shut the backdoor Roth, as people call it. The backdoor Roth is a way for people who make above the income limits to directly contribute to a Roth, to knock that out. So they did that, and the way they did that is to prohibit any after-tax contributions to IRAs from being converted. Because what happens with a backdoor Roth is that a guy like me, I do this, I'm guilty. I do this all the time. Every year, I make an after-tax contribution to my traditional IRA, and 10 minutes later, I make a Roth conversion. And I have to add a Form 8606 to our tax return to say to the government I made an after-tax contribution. Then that makes my traditional IRA conversion tax-free. Well, they just said, no, we're not going to do that. So I have to quit doing that. So that's one thing they did. Then they also, and this gets down to two of the real problems, are that basically they're going to prohibit IRAs from owning any kind of asset that is like an accredited investor asset, any asset that has requirements before you can invest. So they specifically give the example of accredited investor investments. And I find that to be extremely egregious, because that's capital that's used in transactions all the time. You talk about buying a apartment complex or investing in an apartment complex. Well, that's going to be prohibited in your IRA if this legislation passes as is. And they make it even worse by making the IRA not be able to hold any shares of any entity in which the IRA owner is a disqualified person. Of course, the IRA owner is a disqualified person. And if they work or a director, if they're a director or a shareholder or an officer or something, a trustee, a manager, you're not going to be able to put any of your IRA money in. And if you do, it will distribute the IRA, because it will no longer be an IRA. And they also want to prohibit the IRAs from making an investment in which any combination of the IRA investment itself and any money put in either individually or through their IRAs of your family, those cannot add up to more than 9.99%. So 10% and over, that knocks it out and distributes it because it's no longer an IRA. Furthermore, they just pulled this out like 3 weeks ago, and it came out of the subcommittee, and we were all like, what the heck is this?
So, I mean, for me, I think you're I think you're being very kind. I'm just like, this is BS. Right? Like these are dollars. These are dollars that go to work tremendously to provide opportunities, etc. And the investor should be able to benefit.
They want to knock out the Peter Thiels of the world, so that means nobody can invest in a startup. They want nobody to invest in a startup. They don't even realize that most of the self-directed IRA investments are not in startups. They're in real estate or something like that. And frankly, personally, I say, why not invest in startups? I mean, I'm okay with that. But
I mean, Lord knows how many startups failed because of a lack of funding. At least open up those lines.
Deals are going to fall apart. Jobs are going to be lost. It will cost my company, we figure, at least $3 million a year. What do you think I'm going to go under, or do you think I'm going to reduce staff? There's a direct effect of loss of jobs. It's bad for the capital markets. It's bad. It's just bad legislation. It's knee-jerk type legislation.
Quincy, I couldn't agree more. I mean, that's exactly where my mind goes to. It's like, I know that I automatically know that there are employees that will be laid off. Like that. That's happening. So that does not bode well then for jobless claims, et cetera, et cetera. And then if there are so many restrictions then put on a self-directed IRA, what is the advantage to having a self-directed IRA? Then it's just, what do they want us to invest in? Or what could we invest in? Like salmon farms? It just sounds ridiculous to me.
Well, the thing is, you can invest in a lot of things, but you can't do it in an entity. Basically, if you own more than 10%, or you and your family own more than 10%, you're not going to be able to do that in an IRA. So you could still own real estate, for example, and promissory notes. A lot of self-directed IRA money is in notes, and about a quarter of it, I would say, is a direct ownership of real estate. So if you wanted to do a real estate deal, you could still do one in the IRA, but it would have to be directly owned by the custodian on behalf of your IRA and not through any kind of entity. So they're taking away your ability to, for example, have asset protection because you can't do it in an entity. I mean, it's just crazy.
I don't know what to think about this. I mean, hearing it again and again and again and like, I don't know, it infuriates me. Yeah, I just,
It should.
you know,
It's scary. Can you imagine me? I'm getting to be where I'm almost 59 and a half. I was looking at my Roth IRA numbers. They look pretty good. I've saved hard. I've worked hard. I've paid the taxes because they wanted me to encourage me to pay now and not later. Well, now it's later. And I've got the benefit of having a large Roth, not like Peter Thiel, by the way. But, and then you wake up one morning and out of the blue, out of the left field comes this bomb that half your business may be taken away from you in a matter of 3 months. That's pretty egregious. That's a violation of the government's promises, if you ask me.
yeah. I couldn't, I mean, I completely agree with you. I wouldn't say anything different. Absolutely wouldn't say anything different.
Well, there's some good news so far. Now, I say so far because,
How likely do you think this is going to, all of this is going to pass?
you said how what?
No, how likely do you think all of this will come into reality?
Here's the problem. We have screamed and hollered, and I hope everybody listening to this does the same. And we've made some noise, and we've made some people aware that the knee-jerk reaction is not going to work out very well for the industry. But it's in the $3.5 trillion reconciliation bill, and it's hard for them to get agreement. And if you compare our industry to the trillions of dollars they want to spend, I hope I'm wrong, but it's hard to amend or agree to amend a reconciliation bill because it has revenue implications. So we've got to do our best to keep the pressure up on Congress, especially before it, blows up and gets passed. I mean, I think we were pretty lucky that the gridlock lasted through Thursday, because that way it didn't pass as is. I mean, maybe we've got enough breathing room to do it. I don't know, but we're going to keep up the pressure. That's for sure.
You know what I'm going to do in the next 24 hours? You should take a wild guess. I'm going to create a RoboDialer that just constantly dials every single congressman and congresswoman and says
whatever techniques you can.
Yeah, maybe even email spamming. That's not a bad idea.
I mean,
like create like
some
Abhi.
Some of the stuff that we do and we teach about, options and you can still do quite a bit, but it just demonstrates that they can slam the door shut anytime they want to. I mean, I've done enough Roth converting that I'm not too worried about that. Some other people may be.
Yeah.
And it's just, but they did it without any thought of what they were really doing. I analyzed it. An allegory would be like this. Well, Mr. President, we've got those terrorists. We know where they are. They're over in investor land. Great. Should we bomb them? No, the general says they're over in investor land and we've got snipers ready to take them out. All we need is your authorization to, you know, pull the trigger. And he says, great. Any other discussion? Somebody else pops up and says, Mr. President, we have got to kill these people or this man, if you want to take it that way. And I can get a nuclear bomb over there in under an hour. We need to blow up the whole investor land so we can make sure this one guy or this little group of guys are dead. He says, that sounds great. The first general steps up and says, no, Mr. President, that would cause all kinds of collateral damage, millions of lives, and people will be maimed. And you don't need to do that. We got the sharpshooters already ready. And he says, no, bomb the investor land because they shouldn't have been in investor land in the first place.
Mm.
And in this case, the story is the Congress is like the president. The general that first spoke up is like the IRS, who already has sharpshooters. And the rules that they're proposing are like the nuclear bomb. And we know who the terrorist is, or terrorists, those people with all that money in the Roth, which they said that you could do, and now they're trying to take away. It's just dumb and unfair.
I think that's...
Well, I have that effect on some people.
I mean, what you're saying is not true. I mean, holy cow.
You're using a nuclear bomb to do what sharpshooters could do,
Yeah.
which is the prohibited transaction rules we already have. If they would just enforce them correctly,
Yeah.
it would be fine.
Then it'd be fine. I mean, that's why it's called a prohibitive transaction.
Exactly.
I mean, it's in the word prohibitive, unless you can't read, in which case, then you don't deserve to have a self-directed IRA. But the words that just caught me were dumb and unfair, which is absolutely right. For those that have the wherewithal and they understand how to play, and
Exactly.
they should.
And by the way, if I'm trying to design this and I say, well, you can't have personal taxable income under over $450,000 for a married couple and $10 million in your IRA. Well, if I'm somebody who makes that much money, I bet I can get my taxable income under $450,000. So it's not even going to work. It's not even going to work.
Yeah. I'm glad we talked about this. I didn't expect it to go on for 20 minutes, but I'm glad we talked about it.
I can come back. I apologize. As you can tell, I'm kind of passionate about this.
No, you're very passionate about it, which is why I love it. I think it's fantastic. We have to have you back because I've got a bunch of other questions, and now we have to wrap up. And now I'm just like, now I'm getting warmed up and I'm getting fired up. We should turn this into an hour-long thing.
We should. We can and we should.
Okay. Then I'm going to work with my team to make that happen. Think Realty Nation, you want to get in touch with Quest Trust IRA. They are, when it comes to understanding the rules of the industry, when it comes to the stellar team they have, it's awesome. I mean, your team members are great, man. I know Kurt Power really well.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, he's really good friend of the family. There's so many folks over there that are just incredible. And if you are looking for a self-directed IRA, look no further. Quest Trust IRA. Check them out. And we'll keep you posted on what's going on with legislation, of course. We'll keep you posted on some of these updated rules and regulations. And if you have the ability to make some noise, or if you have the ability to call 1,800 times a day to your congressman and congresswoman, rule number one, get educated. So you want to know what the heck is actually happening and what the threats of the rules that are in place possess. Number two, if you don't agree, call them and I'm not trying to bias you, but you shouldn't agree to these rules because they're like that's the sound of these rules. It's like somebody vomiting after eating like a spoiled egg. It's like that's just how bad they are. And so, nonetheless, check them out. Let me know what you think. You can reach me directly if you want. You can find my email anywhere online on LinkedIn, just abhi@abhigoldhar.com if you want to shoot me an email. Quincy and his team, I'm sure, have a lot of thoughts on this. If you want to reach out to them, feel free to do it. Check out Quest Trust on Google. And yeah, Quincy, I'm kind of speechless here. I'm kind of rambling for a second, but it was all really good information. I appreciate you coming on and talking so passionately about a topic. It's such an important topic at this time right now. Going into the fourth quarter of 2021, this would have massive impact into 2022 and beyond, and for the future investability, the future investing opportunities that we would have. So I'll be in touch for sure. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time.
I appreciate it. And a friend of mine, John Heyer, an attorney, is the website handsoffmyira.com. So he has instructions on how to contact your representatives and stuff like that.
Excellent.
Maybe useful. And Excellent. Of course, we're at questtrustcompany.com.
Perfect. Quincy, thanks. I really appreciate it. I'll see ya. Think Realty Nation, this next segment is brought to you by Ashcroft Capital. Ashcroft Capital is a national multifamily syndication firm founded by Joe Fairless and Frank Rossler. Ashcroft focuses on capital preservation while striving to return strong, risk-adjusted cash-on-cash to investors. They specialize in value-add real estate in Texas, Georgia, and Florida. Learn more at ashcroftcapital.com/Travis. So Think Realty, on the topic of what we were just talking about, Think Realty has a very unique opportunity for you. It's called the Government Relations Committee. And we are doing our best to make an effort to have your voice heard in Washington. And two of my really good friends, they're like brothers of mine, they are so passionate about this, will explain a little more about what this opportunity has in store for you. I'll toss it over to my good friends, Eddie Wilson and Chris Ragland. Here you go.
Hey Think Realty, Eddie Wilson here, the founder of Think Realty, along with Chris Ragland, and we've got a brand new opportunity for you, as well as Think Realty. Over the past couple of years, in the American Association of Private Lenders, which many of you know I own that as well, Chris has chaired our Government Relations Committee. We've made massive headway with legislation and all things concerning legislation with lenders. We're trying to do that same exact thing within Think Realty and the real estate investment space. We've asked Chris to come over and chair our Government Relations Committee for Think Realty, and Chris has an awesome vision for it. So if you don't mind, talk to our viewers about what you expect and what the vision is for the GRC.
Sure. So for the past several years, I've been working with a lot of private lenders in our space, and we've been able to bring a team together to help advocate for private lenders in a variety of ways, right? So we've worked at state level, we've worked at the national level, and to be honest, we've made a real impact. So this has been going on for a number of years now. I can talk about some of those things that we've done here in a minute, but the vision and what we're trying to do now, I'm over here working with real estate investors, people like yourself, and we want you to know that honestly, your voice isn't being heard. And that's why we're forming the Government Relations Committee for Think Realty. We're gonna get a few of these difference makers, people just like you, come in here, join this committee so that we can organize, so that we can be vocal, and so that we can be the mouthpiece for the other real estate investors that are out there. So I'm really excited to be here. What a really cool opportunity.
It's awesome. Yeah, and so we've made some massive impact with the American Association of Private Lenders. We intend to make the same impact for Think Realty. Do you mind just taking a second and talking about the impact that we've already made for the American Association of Private Lenders?
Sure. You know, it's easy for people to think that like I can't make a difference, or even an organization that I'm a part of and I'm volunteering with, truly like, are we really making a difference? And I can say firsthand, I have watched us not only influence and help modify legislation at the state level, level and at the federal level, but we've actually swatted down legislation, right? So we did some action in Florida, we did action in New York. We literally went out and visited and educated people at the federal level, like, this is what's going on, this is how you're impacting us. So we've actually done that. We made significant impact and inroads for private lenders in terms of the reporting requirements, what an accredited investor is. I mean, how many other organizations do you know are sourced when they revise like the guidelines for what accredited investors were? Well, I know of one, and it was the American Association of Private Lenders. So that's the type of impact that we're capable of making.
And that's what we really expect to happen at Think Realty. We know that there are a lot of legislative issues concerning rental programs and the eviction moratorium and all that we've just seen recently. A lot of things that are impacting real estate investors, and Chris is just the guy to head this committee. He's passionate about it. He's already proven with our other association, and we know the days ahead are going to be fantastic for Think Realty, making an impact with our legislators and our government bodies to make sure that you're represented. So we need a couple of you to step up and be a part of this committee. If you're interested, please let us know. Go to our website, our contact page, and let us know. And Chris will be your point of contact, and we know that we're going to make big impact in days ahead.
Looking forward to working with you guys.
Hey folks, that's the show. If you've got any questions for us, get in touch. Feel free to reach out to me anywhere online at Abhi Golhar. Of course, you know the website. I cannot do this show without our sponsor, Think Multifamily. Whether you're a passive investor looking for passive income, or you're an aspiring syndicator learning how to grow big fast, Think Multifamily is the industry's leading acquisition and education company. They're here to help you invest for your family's future every step of the way. For more information, check them out, www.thinkmultifamily.com. It's a wrap. Until next time, happy investing.